I'm in med school, and for the past year or so, I was stuck in this back and forth relationship with my now ex. We were dating, broke up, got back together, classic messy timeline. We split for a few months last year when it became clear we were on totally different pages, but reconnected at the end of summer once he had his life more sorted out. He'd finally settled his housing and gotten his foot in the door career-wise, and he said he was ready to be serious. To give you an idea, he's in this elite music conservatory program like the South Korean version of Juilliard. His schedule was all over the place, and mine wasn't any better with med school. But even with the chaos, we carved out time to see each other at least once a week, and we texted or called throughout the day whenever we could. Before I get into how things ended and why it still hits like a punch to the gut, I need to go back to how it all started. We met at this house party my friend was throwing. He was playing the piano, and honestly, he was pretty damn good. My friend knew him from some theater stuff they did together back in undergrad. I wasn't even planning to go. I had finals to prep for and a pile of notes waiting for me, but my friend literally dragged me out of the library, saying I needed a break before I lost my mind. While he was playing, I remember thinking he was kinda cute, but I didn't really pay much attention until later, when we ended up talking about our favorite composers. I used to play violin, so it was easy to get drawn into the conversation. One thing led to another, numbers were exchanged, and that was that. Our first date was honestly one of the most charming things I've experienced. He took me to this hidden little jazz bar I'd never even heard of. The kind of place you'd walk right past unless someone brought you there on purpose. We talked for hours, and I remember how refreshing it felt to be around someone who was passionate about something completely outside the world of medicine. Every guy I dated before was either in med school with me or doing something related, and after a while, it felt like dating a clone of myself. The conversations all started to blend together. But this was different. We started out casual for a couple of months, but things slowly got more serious. That said, the beginning wasn't smooth. I was looking for something real, something long-term. He wasn't quite there yet. He was still figuring himself out, trying to make sense of what he wanted in life and love. We had a long, heavy conversation about it, and decided to take a break to avoid hurting each other more. During that break, I dove headfirst into my studies. I even tried dating other people just to see what else was out there, but nothing came close to the connection I had with him. Every other date felt like small talk on autopilot. Meanwhile, I'd sometimes catch wind of his performances through mutual friends and occasionally show up to support from the back row. We stayed polite but distant. I could see he was still wrestling with career decisions, auditioning, weighing offers, figuring out which direction to go. And as much as it hurt, I respected that he needed that space to grow without me holding his hand. Then one day, totally out of the blue, he reached out and asked if I wanted to grab coffee. He told me he missed me. Said he'd finally gotten accepted into a top-tier music program, found a great apartment close to campus, and was finally in a place where he felt ready to show up as a real partner. I didn't jump right back in. I'd already been burned once and wasn't looking to repeat the same mistakes. But we started seeing each other again, casually at first. I was cautious, maybe even a little emotionally detached for a while. We'd meet between classes and rehearsals, usually for a quick coffee or bite to eat. But I noticed he seemed more grounded this time. More stable. Like he'd finally figured out who he was and what he wanted. Then, about a month in, he pulled off this sweet surprise. Showed up at my place with takeout from my favorite spot. He'd even coordinated with my roommate to make sure I'd be home. We ate, watched a movie, and for the first time in months, I started to believe this thing between us could actually work. Things picked up from there. We were spending more time together, getting into a real rhythm again. Then about 3 months ago, he asked if we could make things official. I said yes, and I meant it. I really believed he had changed. I felt safe with him again. Our relationship felt strong. The sex was great. I liked his friends, and he fit in well with mine. We had the usual minor disagreements here and there, but nothing that raised red flags. I was honestly falling hard. And I truly believed he was falling too. There was this one time where things got a little tense. He wanted more time together, but I was buried in exam prep and needed space to study. He felt neglected, I felt overwhelmed. But instead of letting it spiral into an argument, we actually sat down like adults and worked out a schedule that made sense for both of us. That moment stuck with me. It felt like a real sign of growth. Not long after that, I introduced him to my parents during one of their visits. My dad is notoriously hard to win over, especially after my last relationship ended in betrayal. But he genuinely liked my boyfriend. They bonded over music and whiskey, and by the end of the night, my dad even invited him to come home with us over the holidays. My mom texted me afterwards saying she hadn't seen me that happy in ages and that she thought he was the one. Then came Valentine's Day. I'll admit, I was disappointed when he said we couldn't do anything because of his rehearsals and classes. But he offered to celebrate that weekend instead, which was fine by me. I still wanted to do something nice for him, so I put together a gift and wrote him a really heartfelt card. I'd spent weeks tracking down these rare sheet music prints from an obscure German composer he loves. I had to contact shops overseas, pay extra for rush shipping, really went the extra mile. I also picked up his favorite snacks and a fancy bottle of bourbon he'd been talking about. In the card, I wrote about how proud I was of everything he was doing and how much I admired his dedication to his craft. Even though I had a packed day, I squeezed in a drive across town during my lunch break to drop it off with the concierge at his building. I wanted him to come home to something meaningful. That afternoon, I was on my pediatrics rotation, and by the time I got back home, I was completely fried. One of the kids I was working with had a super complex case, and the attending wouldn't stop firing questions at me. I was trying to juggle medical facts and also be present and kind with these terrified parents. By the end of the shift, I could barely think straight. My roommate was out on a date, so I was alone, eating cold pasta leftovers and zoning out to whatever show was on in the background. Then my phone buzzed. It was him. I felt this little jolt of excitement, thinking maybe he was calling to say thanks. We chatted for a few minutes. He was on his way home and opened the gift while we talked. He thanked me, said the bourbon was a great pick and the sheet music was really cool. I felt good about it. Normal, even. Then I asked if we were still good for our weekend date. That's when he said he wanted to come over to my place this weekend to chat. Now, here's the thing, he lives right downtown, just a few blocks from the restaurant we were supposed to go to. I'm the one living way out in the suburbs. So him offering to make that long drive just to talk? My stomach instantly dropped. That kind of effort usually means something's up. I've been around long enough to know that when someone wants to talk, it's never just a casual conversation. And after the day I'd had, I really didn't want to sit around all week with this feeling of dread hanging over me. So I pushed him a little. Asked if we could just talk now and get it over with, instead of dragging it out. He went quiet. There was a long pause, and I could hear this heavy sigh on the other end of the line. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. And then, he said it. He told me that lately, he's started catching real feelings for this close friend of his, someone he's known for 6 years in his program. Apparently, since they're playing romantic leads in a new production, something shifted for him emotionally during rehearsals. He apologized, saying he needed to be honest and that it didn't feel right to stay in a relationship with me while dealing with all these new emotions. I was stunned. Completely blindsided. I could barely process the words coming out of his mouth as he went on to explain that he hadn't acted on anything physically, but during some of the more intimate scenes in rehearsal, he started to feel a connection, something mutual, or at least he thinks it was mutual. He made it clear they've never talked about it and nothing has actually happened. He claimed his feelings for me hadn't changed either, which just made everything more confusing. I'd met this girl before. A couple of months ago, after one of their winter shows, there was a cast party and I went with him. She seemed nice enough on the surface but definitely cold toward me. At the time, I figured maybe she was shy or just having an off night, nothing major. But now, I'm starting to wonder if she's had a thing for him all along and just didn't know how to hide it. I remember them performing a duet together at that show, and yeah, they had good chemistry on stage. But I didn't think twice about it. He always described her as just a friend and co-worker. He even mentioned once that she had a boyfriend, although I have no clue if they're still together. So I asked him directly, what exactly was he trying to say? What was the point of this conversation? He never came right out and said the words "I want to break up." Instead, he rambled on about how guilty he felt staying with me while these feelings existed, how he needed to figure himself out, and how he didn't want to hurt me more than he already had. Eventually, I had to cut through the noise. I told him it's either we're together or we're not, there's no in between. And that's when he finally admitted it. He thinks we should break up. He kept saying how much he still cares about me, how he hopes we can still be part of each other's lives. I didn't respond. I just hung up the phone. So yeah, we're broken up. For real. And I don't even know what to feel right now. I'm angry, heartbroken, confused, all of it at once. Am I wrong for thinking the way he handled this was messed up? I mean, yeah, I guess it's better that he didn't cheat on me physically, and he was honest before anything actually happened. But emotional cheating? That's still cheating in my book. And seriously, why wait until after I gave him a carefully thought-out Valentine's gift to drop this on me? He could have told me earlier in the week. Or waited until Valentine's passed. Anything would have been better than this. Right after the call, I messaged my best friend. She came over within the hour, armed with wine and ice cream. I spent the next 2 hours crying while she just sat with me and listened. She's usually brutally honest, but even she said, "Wow. That's really F asterisk 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 ed up timing. She ended up crashing at my place that night because I was just too wrecked to be alone. What makes everything even harder is that I'm in the middle of studying for one of my most important exams. Between my clinical rotations, hospital shifts, and the commute downtown to see him, which I always did because it was easier for his schedule, I'd been trying to keep everything balanced. Now, looking back, I just feel like an idiot. Like I poured so much into something that clearly wasn't stable. God, I'm rambling now. I'm just exhausted and hurt and angry. And to top it off, I have to be at the hospital at 6 a.m. tomorrow for rounds. I can't even concentrate long enough to review my notes tonight. And it's Valentine's Day. Go figure. After that night, I didn't hear from him for 3 straight days. Nothing. Radio silence. I was basically just going through the motions: hospital, home, cry, try to study, sleep, repeat. My roommate's been amazing, though. She makes sure I eat, checks in on me, even brought me tea without asking. My mom called to see how my Valentine's went, and I just completely broke down on the phone. She offered to come stay with me, but I told her I needed to focus and study. Edit: a few people messaged asking about our ages, we're both in our mid-20s. Someone else asked if I think the girl has feelings for him too. Honestly, I don't know. He said he thinks she might, based on how she acts during their romantic scenes, but apparently they've never had a conversation about it. Edit 2, when I said broken up for now, I didn't mean we're still figuring it out. That was just me writing messily while upset. We're definitely broken up. What I meant was, I don't know if we'll ever talk again, or if that was the last conversation we'll ever have. It ended so suddenly, I still feel like I'm catching up emotionally. Edit 3, I've been reading through everyone's comments, and even though I haven't replied to many, I appreciate every single one. Some of you asked for more info about our break last year. Basically, he wasn't sure if he wanted to commit to a relationship while chasing his career. He was auditioning across the country and didn't want to do long distance if he got in somewhere far. When we reconnected, it was because he chose to stay in this city for a prestigious program. That's why I thought he was finally serious. But clearly, I was wrong. And yes, by musical performance, I mean theater, opera, stuff like that. I'm being a little vague with the specifics to protect privacy, but basically, they're playing romantic leads in a production. He said these new feelings caught him off guard during rehearsals, but honestly, I'm starting to think maybe something was going on way before that. And now the rehearsal thing is just his convenient excuse. Update: hey again. Just wanted to check back in since it's been a few days. First, thank you for all the support and advice. It really helped center me, especially in those first few days where I was spinning with anger and confusion. Some people suggested I reach out for closure, while others said I should just block him and move on. I sat with it for a while and asked myself what would actually help me feel better. That first night after posting, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head, our whole relationship, trying to figure out if I missed some red flag or if I could have done something different. I even went through every photo of us on my phone. Probably not the healthiest way to cope, but I couldn't help it. I was just a wreck. I almost called in sick to my rotation the next day but forced myself to go. And weirdly enough, being around patients actually helped. There was this one little kid, maybe 5 years old, who was in for treatment. He was incredibly brave despite everything he was going through. Watching him face something so difficult with a smile made me feel like I could get through my stuff too. My friends have been incredible through all of this. My roommate cleaned our whole apartment while I was at the hospital, just to take something off my plate. Another friend from my program stepped in to cover for me one day when I needed to take a mental health break. I've honestly never been more grateful for the people in my life. Yesterday, I finally decided to reach out. The way things ended left me in shock, and I felt like I hadn't really said what I needed to say. I wanted to get it off my chest, not for him, but for me. I sent a text asking if he had time to talk. He called me almost immediately, which surprised me. I figured he'd be busy with rehearsals or wouldn't answer at all. We ended up talking for about an hour. I mostly let him speak at first. I wanted to hear everything again, now that my brain wasn't in panic mode. He gave more detail about how these feelings came up. Apparently, they'd been rehearsing this really emotional. He told me they'd been rehearsing this emotionally intense production for weeks, 8 to 10 hours a day, constantly playing out these romantic scenes together. He said the line between performance and reality started to blur. Eventually, he realized he was thinking about her even when they weren't in rehearsal. I told him I appreciated his honesty and that I knew breakups are rarely clean or easy. I thanked him for not stringing me along, even though it still hurt like hell to feel so disposable after everything we'd shared. I also didn't hold back from saying how much of the relationship I had carried on my own. I was always the one driving across the city to see him, planning our dates, bringing little surprises, showing up even when I was drowning in med school. I never made my schedule an excuse, and God knows I had every reason to, but he did. Constantly. It just felt like I'd poured so much of my heart, time, and energy into something he was only half invested in. Then, get this, he had the audacity to act surprised. He said he never realized I was doing most of the heavy lifting in the relationship. Seriously? You didn't notice that I drove 45 minutes every time just to see you, while you only came to my place if I explicitly asked you to? You didn't pick up on the fact that I was the one planning dates, learning your favorite things, and making space for you in my chaotic life? But I didn't lose my temper. I stayed calm. I wanted to end things with dignity, even if I was seething inside. I told him I hoped he figured out what he actually wanted from all of this, but that I wouldn't be sitting around waiting to see if things worked out with his castmate. He thanked me for being so kind through the pain, whatever that means, and said he hated that he'd hurt me when I didn't deserve any of it. Then came the final twist. He casually mentioned that years ago, like almost 6 years back, when they first started the program, he and this girl drunkenly made out once. Just once, supposedly. Nothing serious, according to him. They agreed to be friends after that. Excuse me, what? That was never mentioned before. Not once. And it's kind of a big detail to leave out when you're telling your girlfriend that you've caught feelings for someone else. I called him out on it immediately. He got defensive, saying it was meaningless, just a stupid college thing that didn't matter. But now, I can't stop thinking, was he just waiting around for her all along? Was I just the filler until she became available or showed interest? It makes our entire relationship feel fake, like I was just the in the meantime girl. I didn't say that to him out loud, but I sure as hell felt it. A lot of people mentioned the idea of a showmance, and honestly, now I totally see it. I looked it up afterward. Turns out, these are super common in theater and performance circles. When people are spending long hours rehearsing intense romantic scenes, the emotions can get mixed up. It's like playing pretend starts bleeding into real life, and people confuse the adrenaline with love. Too bad he didn't figure that out before blowing up our relationship. I talked to a friend of mine who used to do theater, and she confirmed it. Showmances happen all the time. Most of them burn out fast after the show ends and everyone goes back to their regular lives. For everyone asking if I'd ever give him another shot if this thing with his co-star crashes and burns, absolutely not. No way. I'm not interested in being someone's plan B. I already went through that once when we got back together after our first breakup. I won't do it again. Ever. And just to be clear, I don't think she purposely tried to steal him or anything. From what I've seen, she might not even know that he has feelings for her. Honestly, I think this whole mess was fueled by poor boundaries, confusion, and him just being careless with my heart. Now that I'm out of it, I can see things a lot more clearly. A lot of people pointed out that I was carrying most of the emotional and logistical weight in our relationship, and yeah, it's obvious now. I just didn't want to admit it before. Don't worry, he's blocked on everything. Fully gone. I'm still working through the sadness, especially with step 1 coming up soon. It's the most important exam of my life so far, and the timing of all this couldn't be worse. But at least I have something big to focus on, and I've got amazing friends who've really stepped up for me. I finally packed up all his stuff from my place. It wasn't a ton, just a few pieces of clothing, some books, his favorite mug, and a handful of toiletries. I put everything in a box, though I haven't figured out yet whether I'll drop it off, burn it, or toss it out. I deleted all our photos from my phone and untagged myself on social media. Except one. There's this one picture of me at his piano, and I actually look happy. I kept that one not for him, but for me. It's a reminder that I can still be that joyful version of myself, with or without him. Some people also asked about the Valentine's gift. Yep, he still has it. And no, I don't want it back. I gave it from the heart. Asking for it back would feel petty. That said, I wouldn't mind if he accidentally choked on the bourbon. Just saying. Also, I found the receipt for those music sheets. Turns out, I spent way more than I should have, especially for someone on a med student budget. But you live and learn. No more expensive, sentimental gifts for guys who don't show up for me. Anyway, thank you again to everyone who commented and offered support. I might post again if anything wild happens, but honestly, I think this chapter's closed. And I think that's exactly how it should be.